Well, hello and welcome to our Thursday rendezvous. Each week, I'm going to be talking to experts in the renovation, property and design worlds, and I'm going to be asking the questions that you've been dying to ask. These are just short chats with the experts, bringing you the 411 in a way that we can all understand. So we're going to break it down for you. Strap in. Here we go. Hi guys, welcome to another episode. I am today joined by Dan, the owner of Westwood. Hey Dan, loving
Hi,
that.
Lauren, how are you?
Good, thanks. I wish I was in there with you. That is an amazing workspace. Love it.
Yeah, well, this is just the office where everything looks tidy. Downstairs is the workspace, and it's not so amazing, I don't think, but
Exactly.
a lot of people like it.
Pull back the curtain. You look very legit with your tape measure there, though.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd better have some sort of prop, you know?
Exactly.
Work back into my industry, and it made me, yeah, like you said, look legitimate. Because this is just a t-shirt otherwise.
Exactly. And I just realised I completely forgot to send the memo to you about the Christmas earrings. I knew there was something I needed to do last night.
I have got somewhere where I could have placed one of those, but
damn it, next
maybe
time.
you could like Photoshop one in later.
Yes, exactly. Sounds good. Now, for those watching who aren't familiar with Westwood, you need to get into their feed because they have some absolutely gorgeous design work in their Instagram feed and on their website. But they are a handcrafted timber furniture maker and custom joiner. And recently I posted a photo of one of your recent kitchen fit outs, which was just the most beautiful haven of timber-tasticness. It was absolutely gorgeous. So I thought, let's get you in and let's chew the wood fat because there's a lot to cover off. In the space that I've already dropped it, the term joiner / joinery.
Yeah.
And I bet anyone watching has probably just nodded along through that intro going, oh yeah, custom joinery. Yep. Know what they're on about. But they probably don't because it's a term that I don't think people really know what's involved in joinery, what it means, how it differs between a project that would you would engage a carpenter for or a cabinet maker for. So keen to kick off with that question, Dan. Can you talk to us and take us through what is the difference?
So compared to cabinetry or furniture making, for example?
Yeah, mainly cabinetry. So if most people watching will be interested around renovating their homes. So when they're engaging the certain tradespeople that are involved in their reno project, understanding who does what is what I'm really keen to kind of nail in our chat today when it comes to working with timber products.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a little bit, it's not quite as clear cut in Australia, the cabinetry or joinery, the two different definitions. They're definitely a bit more blended into one here, but I kind of have found, in my little pocket in Melbourne, a network of people that cabinet making is sort of more standardized kind of boxes and more related to something that's it's probably a little less bespoke and a little less fitted as much as it's made for that particular home. Yeah. And so therefore more associated with kitchens and more basic elements like that. And sort of a cabinet maker, I suppose, is a different term in the UK than it is over here. So I kind of like to associate with that myself a little bit more, where it's a bit more service orientated. There's a bit more detail that you have to sort of to talk about and discuss. And I'm not sure if I'm clearing this up for you or not, but
don't worry, we've got time to unpack it. All good.
Yeah. A cabinet maker in a factory makes sort of boxes. Joinery is more kitchens and the basic elements like that of a house. But I tend to believe that cabinetry is much more service orientated, much more detail to work out, and tends to have a lot more timber involved in woodwork making, handling wood, different materials. So it's very unclear, really. But you'll get the impression quite quickly. I think one way to easily define it is does that factory use hardwood and deal with hardwood and make things out of hardwood in any way, shape or form? Then they're typically going to have sort of a heavier service and design element to their products. And if they don't, and they just sort of more of the melamine and the standard kitchen fronts and panels and things like that, then they're kind of more of just a builder's cabinet maker kind of thing rather than an end user's cabinet maker.
Yeah. And carpenter, where does a carpenter fit into this picture?
Well, carpentry is typically, again, you'd have to shift your idea of what it is depending on what country you're in the world. But in Australia, it's definitely the guy that's on the tools building the house. So nothing necessarily to do with any sort of finishes like painting, plastering, joinery or cabinetry. The carpenter is the guy that put the frame up and does the roof and trusses, and so it's quite different to finishing. It's more structural.
Yep. So if we look at some areas of the home where you might engage a joiner, so let's look at TV units or wall units, cabinetry, sort of shelving and the like. When would a homeowner best engage with a company like yours? Is it a direct engagement activity? So if someone is renovating their home, they're working with a builder and or an architect or a designer. But when it comes to that sort of decision making for a specific area, would a homeowner be directly dealing with you on that, or do you tend to work through those third parties?
Look, we do both.
Yep.
We do it all, and there's so many different scenarios about the build process. So, for example, some people like a fully complete package when the scheduled time frame is up and they like to move in, and then they don't like to be disturbed again. And in that case, it would be very early engagement in conjunction with the builder and architect, not necessarily through. The client can specify whether they want their joinery package separate from the build package, and that'll all be discussed at the building contract stage, I suppose.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, I suppose, that the builder's, provisional sum for those sort of elements is typically not based around something quite as bespoke as what we do. Mm-hmm. So you'll find the budget will blow out if you want to separate that package, but the builder's giving you an idea of what that sum is. It won't be that. So there's lots of different ways we do it. Directly through the client is perfectly acceptable. Some people are sort of organised enough and doing their own project management to a certain degree. Yep. Obviously, it depends on whether you've engaged the architect or designer to be a project manager or not, or whether you're doing it yourself as a homeowner or the builder's doing it. Typically, if the builder's doing it, they'll have their own joiners and they'll provide their own package. And with all due respect to construction and the building industry, it's not necessarily based around a lot of bespoke making and design specifications. It's sort of based around general finish and delivering on time. Yeah. We do both. There's again a lot of benefit out of dealing with designers and architects for us and for the client as well. Yeah. But I don't know, I quite like the idea if somebody's willing to sort of be slow enough about it. I quite like the idea, apart from the main elements like their kitchen and bathroom, that they get the build done and get the build delivered and possibly move into this place and get a feel for the space, and then discover their real needs for the other, like the entertainment units and extra whatever else they want to have, bookshelves or dining tables. I quite like the idea of have a slightly slower, more experiencing the space kind of approach. But obviously that doesn't suit everybody either.
Yeah. Oh no, you've touched on some really good points there. key point around being, as a homeowner renovating, to be really clear with the engagement with your builder around what is within scope and what is then being dealt with directly outside of the building contract. So that's a really important point, because you make that around the costing can be very, very different to what has been estimated in that scope of work to what in reality you might actually want in terms of your finished product. And I like that point as well. I talk to people renovating their home around setting aside a budget to furnish their homes, you know, once they're in there and they've got a real sense of the space, that you don't try and jump to those decisions too early on in trying to figure out exactly how that space is going to be finished off until you're back in there. But build yourself into your budget a buffer for furnishings. And I like that idea as well around that, you know, once you're in the space and you're really experiencing it, that is where you might want to actually create those more bespoke solutions. So you don't necessarily have to have the whole plan from the outset when it relates to all of these decisions.
And that's particularly relevant if the homeowner is project managing a bit more themselves. If there's an architect or an interior designer involved, they can deliver those ideas and packages quite completely, because they're very experienced and skilled at it, and it's usually a really good result. So you can invest in that peace of mind and that full package, or like I said, as a homeowner, potentially taking it a bit slower is a more mature approach. Yeah,
great options there. I just want to finish off, because you guys obviously know your wood inside out, your timber, and how to care for timber. One of the key things I talk to people about when styling their home is there's two key ingredients to creating a warm, cozy home that you can really feel at ease in, and that is greenery and timber. I feel like it's critical in every space, and it really does give you that feeling that everyone is always looking for in their home. So wanted to get your top tips for caring for timber products, whether that be a beautiful table, a bookcase, a sideboard, but anything you can share in terms of what people need to know about really, you know, maintaining their timber furniture and furnishings for the long term.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, it does depend on a few things. Obviously, I totally agree with you about the warmth and the comfort in the space sort of coming from greenery and timber. And, you know, essentially those two things are both kind of living things, you know, even though the timber's been milled and machined, it still expands and contracts and moves, and it's still, you know, absorbs moisture and releases moisture. It's still quite alive in many ways. So there's a lot of tension in there still from when it was growing. So it's a very living thing, as much as the plants are in your house as well. So I agree with you on that. And as far as care and maintenance, it would depend on a lot of things, such as what the initial sort of surface preparation and finishes were on that material. So there's different kind of finishes, ones that kind of are really external and really lock the timber up as far as moisture and you know, movement goes, but they're a little less sort of flexible in being able to maintain them. They're really hard and durable, but don't really work well with a live product like timber. Right. And then there's other products that you can finish things with, like natural oils and waxes, which are, you know, again, our preference because of how you can, you know, look after them and maintain them going forward. The good thing about timber is you can sort of sand it all back and start all over again with a finish, and so it doesn't matter what's put on initially. You can sort of work something that's been made properly. You can rework it and refinish it. But I kind of like lived-in things as well. So I don't necessarily think that timber is supposed to be something that's always perfect. It's not molded and not going to be the same in summer as it is in winter. So it's I don't mind it being lifted. I don't mind a bit of wear. But, you know, the more you use, if we use a natural hard wax oil sort of finishes on our products, then there's certain kind of wax wax sprays that you can use that provide not just a cleaning but a refinishing in a way, that maintenance on those sort of surfaces. A lot of people get ring marks from cups and pot plants and things that can sort of be pressed out with gentle heat from an iron with some sort of padding in between that. That's actually moisture that's come from out of the timber to the surface. It's not a mark of moisture from what you put on there on the timber. So it's basically just a little sign saying there's a whole bunch of moisture here, you need to push it back and spread it back out into the timber. So there's lots of little tricks and lots of little things you can do, but I would say, first of all, don't be worried about wear and tear. It's a living product. If you've got little kids, let it get worn out until they're a bit older, and then sort of sand it back and refinish it. It's going to be like new again. And the more natural the product you start with, the more you can, reuse that and patch fix and like that. So those are my preferred approaches. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I want to wind this conversation up because I've got a ring mark on the stool in the hallway from my children putting their sippy cup down years ago, that I'm going to get the iron out now and sort that out. So hot tip, literal hot tip. I love it. This is great. Thank you so much, Dan. Really appreciate your time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
All right. See ya.
Yeah.